Okay, I'd like to welcome everyone to the conference call this evening. My name is Armin Morin, and you are on the Big Seminar Preview Series, and we have a tremendous guest speaker tonight who has literally changed lives of people from all over the world, and we're going to find out all about this person today and what he can do for your business. He's a tremendous person. He has a bestseller. In fact, I believe, and he may correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty positive on this one, that he is the number one book on the New York Times bestseller list right now. And so we're going to find out what that book is, what that book's about, and also how you can get your hands on that as well, too. So the person I'm talking about is Harv Eker, and we're going to be talking to him in the next 60 minutes on this particular conference call. And Harv, are you on the call with us yet?
I am. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you absolutely clearly. I'd like to welcome you to the call tonight.
Thanks. You and your group sound really exciting, wonderful people.
In fact, they are still coming, and we're jamming up this call tonight. And so obviously you're a very, very popular person. You know, I have to tell you a real quick story is that I was at a seminar up in Vancouver, Canada with a friend of mine. Actually, his name was Randy Chirac. And he had a bunch of people at his event that were your students. And I have to say this, I have never heard any one person's name spoken so much over the course of 3 days. It was just incredible. I felt like I knew you before I even left that seminar, and you weren't even there.
I was there in spirit.
That's right. Now, was I correct to say, because I heard through the grapevine that you had hit number one status on the New York Times bestsellers list within the last couple of days?
That's right. On Monday, we hit number one on the monthly business list, and so we're the number one book on the New York Times list. There's 7 different lists, so people can clarify. There's a fiction list, a nonfiction list, and all the romance stuff, and advice lists and things like that. And we're the number one business book on the monthly list, and so we are the number one bestseller on the New York Times. Now, in the advice list, which is even a harder one to do because that's weekly.
Right.
We hit number 2 last week.
Right.
So and in Wall Street Journal we were number 1 business and number 1 nonfiction. USA Today number 1 business and number 4 overall in all books on the planet. That includes the romance books and Honeymoon and the John Grisham books. So we're pretty pleased with that. And if any of the guests on your call are actually students of mine also, I'd just like to say a massive, massive, massive heartfelt thank you for all the support that everyone who bought the book has given us. And, we're told this is a phenomenal feat to debut at number 1 on the first week out. Not on Amazon. We did Amazon, of course, too. We were number 1 business, number 1 personal finance. But to debut in the New York Times at number 2 and number 1 on the business list is never been done before, and we owe that completely to our loyal and devoted and incredible people that are students or participants or whatever you want to call them. And I'm sure you feel the same way about the people who you teach.
Absolutely, and to come out with a book that can do that is just amazing. Number one, it shows. Number one, the draw that you have out there in the marketplace, and you've been doing this for a number of years, as far as teaching people how to reach their, as you state, their peak potential. And let's kind of draw back a little bit, because what the purpose of this call is to let people, give people an idea of who you are, because some of the people may not be familiar with exactly who you are, but we want to find out a little bit about you. And what we want to do is we want to find out what people are going to be learning from you actually at the big seminar in about 30 days away, which I can't meet because that'll be the first time that we'll get to meet actually face-to-face. I know you've been working with a good friend of mine and one of my business partners, Alex Mondosian.
Yeah, great guy.
And he's all right. I mean, he's still up and coming, though.
Yeah. You know what's so funny? He said the same thing about you.
See that? It's just stealing my material again. But everyone knows Alex and I are business partners in some of our products we have together. But I know you've been working with him. Now, what I want to know about you is you have just a tremendous story as far as your background. Let's start with some of the background as far as how you got involved in business a little bit, and kind of bring us up to speed as where you are right now.
All right, that's a good way to start. Now, I think the most important thing that people need to know is that I didn't start off rich. And because, a lot of people have some thoughts around, silver spoon in the mouth type of thing. But my parents were European immigrants, and they came over on the slow boat. I guess it took like 6 weeks or something. And they came over with no luggage whatsoever, but a half of a French roll of bread. And that's all they had with them. And in that French roll, there was no bread inside it because they stuffed all the money that they had, American money, into that French roll instead of the bread. So they barely didn't eat for 6 weeks, and they didn't have any luggage. They had only their clothes, and they had about $30 in total when they came over. Now, the reason I'm saying that is because, so you have to understand where I came from. So to my parents, and this is very important based on what we teach because it's all about the psychology of wealth, to my parents, what was money all about? Money was not about luxury. Money was about survival. I repeat, survival. And so, of course, that's what got ingrained into me, that money is about security and survival. And if you want to live, you have to have money. And the more money you have, the more you can live. It wasn't about luxuries. It wasn't about boats and planes and Lamborghinis. It was about, to survive, you need a lot of money. And so that was what was ingrained in me. And so while all my friends wanted to be, baseball players and football players and astronauts and firemen and policemen, I just wanted to be a millionaire. So I'm stating this is because I really wanted to be rich. It wasn't like something that, I can take it or leave it. I just want to be comfortable. No, I want to be really rich because that's what it meant to me. And so I left college basically at the end of the first year because I had enough of school at the time, and I was saying, I did the proverbial year off, that
right.
And I'm still doing that one. So you know what I mean there. And so my son just recently said, I don't think I'm going to take a year off. No, right? It's not going to work. So anyways, took the year off, and I went out there into the business world and began seeking my fortune. And I don't think I was like an idiot or anything. I thought I had, had some brains, at least as far as the business world and whatnot. And I'd always been interested in business and always worked at fairs and things like that when I was young. And so I went out there to make my mark and make my money. And that was at about 18, 19. And pretty soon, until for the next 10 years, Armand, I was the most frustrated person you could ever imagine. Everything I did went bust. I mean, I never went bankrupt, but about as close as you can get. Every time I would make a bunch of money, and then I would lose it. And I'd make a bunch and lose it. Then I'd make a bunch and take a year off and blow it. And then I'd make a bunch. And so I could make it, but I could never keep it. And it wasn't like a big spendthrift or anything. It would just kind of wane,
Exactly.
And I kept on coming back to the same amount every time pretty well. And so for 10 years, I had 12 different businesses, and I'm sure a lot of people on this call can relate to that, trying everything that I thought was a hot business and something that everybody else was making money with, and, just trying to get into every little thing, the hottest product, the latest thing, the latest strategy. I was even taking marketing courses and negotiations and business. I was a learner, too, but I was learning this part of it. And nothing was working. And finally, a friend of my father's, who's a very, very wealthy man, because my father did okay, but not, still middle class. But this guy was a builder like my dad, and he owned like 30 or 40 high-rise apartments and plazas and things like that in the city. He was a multi-millionaire, probably a billionaire, but I can't say for sure.
Right.
And he took pity on me one day during the poker game at my parents' house, and I was living back in the lower level suite of my parents' home, otherwise known as the basement.
Right.
And it's been the fourth time I've moved back there in the last few years, of course. And so he said, Harvey said, you come up with all these great ideas, and you have to be the first at this and the first at that. He said, you know what? If you're so frustrated, I can see it in your face. You look like you're 50 years old and you're only 29. He said, why don't you just do what rich people do? Rich people seem to do the same things all the time. If you just do what they do, you're going to get rich too. If you model myself, you'll model people who are rich, especially in business. Do what they do, and you'll get rich. And I never thought about it like that. I just never, I didn't think there was a secret. I guess I thought there was, a way of doing things, but I didn't know it was just that most rich people do the same thing, especially in business. And so I said, well, I don't know what rich people do, especially in business. He says, well, I'm not going to tell you, but I'll help you find out. And what you'll need to do is study rich people like I did. And so I did. I studied rich entrepreneurs, people in business, people who had businesses that were doing well. And I really, really went to town on this because I was always a learner, but this time I was learning something about how they thought and what they did and that kind of thing. And so lo and behold, the next business, I put it to the test. All the principles I learned, I put to the test. And believe it or not, I made $1 million, became a millionaire in only 2.5 years. And so, obviously this thing worked. But guess what happened? 2 years later, guess what? I didn't have any more money left. I went back to the exact same place, almost to the dollar in my bank account that I'd started with again and again and again. Now, here's where it gets interesting. The business that I was in was the fitness business. I had opened one of the first retail fitness stores in all of North America, and then I sold half my company shares to the H.J. Heinz Corporation, the ketchup people, for $1.6 million.
Right.
Meanwhile, I started that company on a credit card loan, basically. And so meanwhile, here I was 2 years later. I have exactly the same amount as I started with, minus 3,000 or whatever. And that was the number I kept on seeing in my bank account. Every time I opened my bank book, it kept on, whatever it said, it kept on going back to that. Now, I was in the fitness business, and there was something in the fitness business that everybody knew about. It was the big rage. It was called your metabolic set point. So what that means is a weight that your body is comfortable with. In other words, conditioned to be at.
Right.
And so I knew that was a very prevalent thing when people were exercising, that it would be very difficult from there to move from that metabolic set point as to where they're conditioned to be. And I realized, I just had this aha from spirit, that's from the universe, that said, Harv, you know what? Just as there is a set point when it comes to our weight, there's a set point when it comes to our money, and you've got it, and you can see it right in your bank account, and I'll bet everybody else has got this too. And so I started doing some research about this whole thing, and at the time, I was very, very heavy into personal development because, I don't want to get into it right now, but let me put it this way. I was a great father to my daughter, but I wasn't a great father to my son, who was literally about 6 months old, and I was treating him the way I was being treated, and it wasn't the prettiest thing. I'll just be honest with you right there. I wasn't a jerk or anything, but I heard myself saying things to my son that my father said to me that I hated about that. I think everybody knows what I'm saying, yes?
Right.
And that was enough to say, no, I need to get some serious work on me because this is not my son's fault here. 6 months old, I'm yelling at him? Okay, I don't think so. And so at least I had the presence of mind to say, I don't want to live my life. I want to live my life in a great relationship with my son, not like the way my father and I had it, where we're in a great relationship now, but he's in his 80s now. So, it changed pretty dramatically. But and so I was very heavy into high development of personal development stuff. And so I began using many of the processes that I'd been using to recondition in my mind around how I reacted with my child and my own responses versus reactions and who I was becoming, and began using that on the money side. And lo and behold, I was able to recondition my own mind, my own what we call money blueprint now, my financial thermostat, to such a level that I guess the word is I began having this thing called the Midas touch. And I guess everybody knows what that means, right?
Right.
Basically, everything you touch starts to work. It starts to turn to gold. Now, I knew I had this because before it was like I had the un-Midas touch. It's like it was like the Loch Ness monster. I had heard of this thing called profit. I just never saw any of it. You know what I'm saying?
So basically what you did was whatever the way you thought before, you kind of ran in the other direction.
Exactly. And so everything that I touched before went down the drain. Everything I touch now just went through the roof. And it was like it was getting better and better. And the more I worked on me and more I worked on this inner money blueprint thing that I developed processes for. So I developed processes for myself. Then I gave those processes and started working on those with my wife because definitely she needed them too. She was a massive spender. And then we created a third blueprint for the relationship. And all of a sudden, and I have to say this, all of a sudden we used to fight about money every single day for 9.5 years. And when I say every day, I wish I was exaggerating. You know what? It's even more. Sometimes it's more. On the weekends, if we saw each other all day, it would be more. If we went to the mall together, it could be 10 times in a day. And I kid you not, these were not physical arguments, but they're as close as you can get. They were like angry arguments, not just, oh, don't do that right now. No, it wasn't like that at all. It was like, what the hell? And we were ready to get divorced already. We had already looked for lawyers and things. We loved each other. We had wonderful kids, but we just couldn't get along when it comes to money. I guess everybody understands that one, right?
Sure.
And here it was, literally within 2 months after working with these amazing processes on myself and my wife and this third blueprint, within 60 days, we have never had another fight or argument about money since. You know how long it's been? 12 years.
Amazing.
12 years after fighting every single day. And so, you know, Armin, you're in the training business too, and I'm sure a lot of you listening understand this. If you're going to teach something, whatever you're going to teach, you're going to teach it because you believe in it, but you believe in it because hopefully it works for you. I mean, you're not going to teach something to somebody else that didn't work for you. Look, for example, I used to be a decent skier, and I was always a kind of a teacher. So I'd go down the slope, and I'd see someone having trouble, and it was very obvious to spot what they were doing if you're a good skier. So it's like, you know, excuse me, if you don't mind me saying so, because you're standing beside the person, if you keep your hands down the hill and they don't keep on going back, you won't have that problem with catching your upper edge. So, you know, it's just a natural thing. Of course, I would do that mostly for the snow bunnies, but, you know, sometimes for guys once in a while. But I was single at the time, so it's okay.
Right.
Yeah. But, you know, so a natural thing. So you're going to teach what you believe worked for you and helped you. Now, so I had these processes that radically changed my inner blueprint about how I thought about money, because obviously the way I thought about money was not supportive because it wasn't working very well. That was my result. And now the way I thought about money, my inner natural way of being, my normal natural decision-making processes turned to gold. And so I was able to do this, and so I started teaching other people this. And I was teaching business at the time. I was teaching a program called Get Rich Doing What You Love, another program called Maverick Marketing, and another program called Guerrilla Business Tactics Your Mother Never Taught You. And all of these programs were, what I heard, were some of the best in the industry and really made a difference for people on the business level. But what was happening is that some people would go through the roof, while many others, nothing would happen for with the exact same principles and strategies. And so I realized they were having the same issue that I was. That's when I developed a program that's now called the Millionaire Mind Intensive, and radically worked on people's inner game when it came to their way they thought and their belief systems and their dendrites and their neurological pathways, their path of least resistance, what was logical and sensible to them when it came to decisions around money and success. And when we did that program, all I can tell you is you don't know that it's going to work because it worked for you and it worked for your wife, it worked for, you know, a couple of friends and whatnot, but you don't know it's going to work. And all of a sudden, I had 180 people in my program there, and sure enough, we did this program for 2.5 days, and within 3 months, there wasn't even email then. The letters and the phone calls were so far beyond anything I'd ever dreamed of that I knew I had something. I knew that this was very radically different than what everybody else was talking about, both in the business side of things, which I still taught, and the money management side of things. And so all of a sudden I began focusing on this more and more, and the more I focused on it, it's like, you know how you're meant to do something in this world?
Sure.
You know how, like, the universe will tell you if you're on track by your successes or failures also? Well, all of a sudden, people started flocking to this program and telling everybody about it, and the results were nothing short of unfathomable, just phenomenal as to what was happening so quickly for people once we worked on the inner game. Because what I realized is that the inner game is the roots of success. It's the seeds and the roots to the fruits. And so all of the outer game, primarily all of the tools that we teach people, are not usable very well unless we have a toolbox that can hold those tools. And so here I was teaching business and negotiations and marketing and how to find hot businesses and all different areas of business and even some real estate and whatnot. But the point is they didn't have the toolbox that could support it. So they would make decisions that would sabotage whatever tools I gave them. And so all of a sudden they weren't doing that anymore. They were now able to use the tools that we were able to give people on the business side. And that's been the blessing. Once you have the roots in place, then all of the tools, once you have the toolbox in place, all of the tools that you've been learning, all of a sudden you now start not only using them, but using them to their greatest effectiveness. And Armin, you're one of the best marketing trainers in the country, the best business trainers in the country. And you teach people some incredibly valuable tools. And, you know, but the point is, can and do people use them as effectively as they could, as effectively as you? And, of course, the answer is some do and many don't.
Exactly.
And we would love for them to use them to the same effectiveness as we do. because it
Now,
would show the same result.
Now, would you say that that's probably the number one reason why people do not succeed, especially in business, even more so in life, but is because there is the thinking process is that they're not grounded properly, as you said, they don't have the tools in the toolbox, so to say, from a mental standpoint to support all the technical abilities that they may know and probably know very, very well.
Well, it can only be that because, your inner world creates your outer world. Your outer world is nothing more of a reflection of what's going on inside you. And that's why I say, I'm very famous for saying now, give me 5 minutes and I can predict your financial future for the rest of your life. How? By identifying what's called your money and success blueprint. Now, this is what I've been talking about. Each of us has a personal money and success blueprint already ingrained in our subconscious mind. And, Armin, it is this blueprint, more than anything and everything else, all combined, that will determine your financial life. So how's the blueprint formed? It's formed based on the information or programming or conditioning processes we had in the past, especially as a young child. Who are some of the primary sources of this information? Parents, teachers, religious leaders, culture. A good example is culture. Isn't it true that certain cultures have a certain way of thinking and dealing with money, and other cultures have a completely different way of thinking and dealing with money? Yes?
Sure.
But let me ask you a question. Did the child come out of the womb doing it that way, or were they taught how to do money that way?
They were taught, definitely.
Exactly. You and me and everyone on this line was taught how to do money. Now, here's the problem. We were taught mostly by people who didn't have a lot of it or had emotional issues and problems around it, all right? And so angers, proving themselves, fear-based, all that kind of stuff. That's how we got taught. And so how are we taught? 3 primary ways, Armin, that we're taught, not just for money, for everything. And this goes for everything. Your relationships, your happiness, your habits, all of it. We're taught by verbal programming. What did you hear when you were young? Modeling. What did you see when you were young? And specific incidents. What did you experience around money, success, wealth, and rich people when you were young? Give me an example of verbal programming. Can I?
Sure.
All right, so here we are, verbal programming. What did you hear when you were young? Now, when I stand up and talk about this at my seminars, I ask people to share within the group what they heard when they were young about money, success, and invariably, here's the things that we hear. Things like, money's the root of all evil, there's never enough, rich people are greedy, rich people are criminals, filthy rich, you have to work hard to make money, we can't afford it, money doesn't buy happiness, money doesn't bring love. Of course, my father's favorite, anytime I asked him for anything, he'd go, hey, what am I, made of money? And I used to joke around with him and go, Dad, I wish. I'll take an arm or a leg. I'll take a little finger. You know what? He never laughed once, not even once, okay, just with that glare in his eye. My God, like I was, oh, my God, And so, and here's the problem. Every single statement that you heard when you were young, every one of those is still lodged, stuck in your subconscious mind, and part of the financial blueprint that is running your life. So what do I mean by this? Okay, this is where I want to, because I understand that you work with some higher echelon methodologies and people. So can I give you a little higher echelon piece here for your group?
Absolutely.
All right, so everyone listening, listen closely here. So we know, like for example, I'm going to give you a little formula. If you have a pen and paper on hand, it would be really helpful. If you don't, just memorize it. And that is T leads to F, leads to A, leads to R. Okay, I'm going to say it now. Your thoughts lead to your feelings, lead to your actions, lead to your results. All right. Why do you have the results you have? Because of the actions you took. Yes?
Yes.
Well, why did you take those actions? Because of the feeling you had at the time. Yes?
Yes.
Why did you have that feeling? Because of the thoughts you had prior to that. So, and by the way, people say, well, the feelings don't really count. Really? How many of you have ever said, do this? Okay, well, I don't feel like it. Okay, I'm thinking I want to do this. I'm thinking I want to do my write this letter right now, but I ain't going to. Why? Because I don't feel like it. That's very important, right?
Right.
Now, here's the higher echelon piece. So we all agree, hopefully, that thoughts lead to feelings, lead to actions, lead to results. Great. What leads to your thoughts? Why do you think the thoughts you think? Why do those bubbles, figments of neurological pathway bubbles, why do they bubble up in your head and they don't bubble up in the person next to you? Why is certain triggers bubble up a certain thing for you and a different response for somebody else? Why do you think the thoughts you do? Here's the answer, and that's the P, the programming. You are programmed to think the way you think. In other words, based on the information that was, I'm going to say this word, installed in you from an early age, You then pretend that that information is yours, and you are making your own decision and choices. Wrong. You're not. You're making the choices based only on the information that was stuck into your files, placed and installed into your files through, again, verbal programming, modeling, and specific incidents, conclusions you came to. Now, there's nothing wrong with that as long as it's supportive to your happiness and your wealth. And, of course, there's the rub. For most of us, it's not. We don't think thoughts that are really happy. We also don't think thoughts that are really supportive. We make decisions that are based in non-supportive belief structures and ways of thinking that do not lead to wealth. How do you know? Well, if you're not rich, then you know. It's real simple. So, Armin, does everyone ever follow, you think, what I'm saying here?
I think people, are definitely understanding this. I mean, let's just use myself as an instance. It's amazing that actually I had a very similar upbringing as you did. My parents were not rich. My parents, always had money troubles. My father came from a very poor family as well, so it was like almost a hereditary thing, if you want to call it that, where, they just didn't know about money, they didn't know how to acquire money, and they certainly didn't know how to keep money. And there's nothing wrong with that, it's just he didn't know. And what that did for me, the one thing, though, that I had that my father continued to do was he always knew there was a better way, and he continued his search for that better way. So I always knew that he didn't have money, and he was always using that language, that programming, just as you were talking about. We don't have enough, we can't afford it, things of that nature. And but he continued to search for ways to make money. I've seen him sell jewelry at Christmas time. I've seen him try the whole SMC business and things of that nature. All these different things that he tried. And so when I got out into the real world, I'm still on that 1 year break from college as well too. And when I stopped from college, I started selling vacuum cleaners. Door to door, and I kept on trying all these different businesses. I tried MLM, I tried all these other little businesses that just didn't seem to go anywhere. And one thing I did learn from that programming was to always continue to try until that I had figured out I had to replace what I was taught previously about my feelings about money, which is exactly what you're talking about. And you learn to certainly a much greater degree. But that process, it was like a major breakthrough, because once I got through that barrier and started thinking differently, in fact, my thought process was pretty simple. When I came to the conclusion is I just have to make more money than what I can spend. And I figured if I can just do that, then I'll be pretty happy. And then it's just how much more money is enough more money, which I still haven't figured that part out. So I just make as much as I possibly can. But that process, though, it took years and years. And during those years, two of my best friends was spaghetti and ramen noodles. Because that's all I could afford at that time to eat. But there was always better, because it's that thought process that how I felt towards things. I think that made the huge difference, and it's exactly what's obviously what you're confirming. And
yeah, now you modeled your dad in some way, and now let me ask you a question.
Sure.
Do you think, are you closer to the way? See, we're going to be identical to one or a combination of both of our parents in the arena of money, or we're going to be exactly the opposite. Now, where would you place yourself?
Probably the opposite.
Yeah. See, what happened, and of course that depends on how pissed off you were at them, right? Especially when it comes to the financial arena. Now, some people, their parents are broke, or were broke, or had money troubles, or just, whatever it was, and they say, well, how could I be any different? My parents were like this is what I learned. And that's, a good 75% of the people out there. But then there's going to be the other 20 or 25% of the people that go, I hated that. I couldn't get what I wanted. I hated living like that. I vowed when I was really young I would never, ever, ever live like this again.
Right.
You know what? These people go out and they get rich. There's only one little problem with this, Armin, because I'm sure a lot of your listeners are in the same position. They're not doing bad financially. They're doing a lot better than their parents, and they have something to prove. They're going out there and they're going to make as much money. The problem is they got money, but they got no happiness this time.
Right.
And the reason they don't have happiness is, listen closely, is because the root of their motivation for money is based in fear.
Right.
All right? So it's either fear, need it for security, or it's fear. I have to prove myself. That's the one I had going because my parents said when I left college, you're going to be a bum. You're never going to amount to anything. We don't even want to look at you anymore. Come back when go back to school, all right? You're never going to amount to anything. And they're screaming at me at the top of their lungs. I said, all I did was leave school for what's the big deal here? Well,
right.
Of course, it was their whole life because they thought I'd be broke, and finished for the rest of my life because I wasn't going to be a professional, right?
Right.
And so I wanted to prove them wrong. And so my whole motivation for money was what? I'm going to prove they're wrong. I'm going to prove I can make it. I'm going to get rich. I'm going to do it fast. I'm going to show them. Well, guess what happened? Not much. Because, again, part of that, and I wasn't happy either, but even if I did make it, it didn't mean anything to me because you can never prove yourself enough. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
And so the proving thing doesn't work. The fear thing doesn't work at all. And the anger thing doesn't work at all. They work to create money, but they don't create happiness at the same time. And what we teach in our programs is something radically different, and that is that you can have both, okay?
Sure.
You have money and happiness. Money and you can be a kind and generous person. Money and you can be a spiritual person. Both. You can be really rich and really happy and really spiritual and really kind, considerate person. All of it. There's no reason you have to be one or the other. And yet, isn't that the way most people, like in the book Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, I have 17 different ways that people can model as to how rich people actually think very differently than other people. And number 12, I believe it says rich people think both and poor people think either or. And so it's always like, again, I want to be a really good person, but I can't be a really good person if I'm really rich because those people are bad, And so we have these I'm going to call them disastrous myths rolling around in the dendrites of our brain that it seems quite obvious if you examine them, which is what we do in the course, of course, and in the book. But when you're just making your normal decisions, they don't seem obvious because they're completely unconscious. Your mind doesn't come up and go, oh yes, I heard that rich people are very greedy, and I don't want to be greedy, so I won't be rich. I think I shouldn't buy this piece of property. No, your mind never says that, okay? It just says, no, I don't know. I don't think this piece of property is going to be, I don't think it's a good idea, no.
So basically what happens is your thought process is basically essentially sabotaging you because of the programming that's happening within yourself.
It's either sabotaging you or supporting you, one of the two, right?
Right.
And so, but most people don't have very supportive thoughts. I mean, if people just want to take a look at their thought processes for just 10 minutes when they're not in the present moment, what do you normally think about? I guarantee it's bad.
Sure.
I guarantee it's not a very helpful thing. I guarantee 99% of the time it's based in fear, all right? It's about what could happen, what could go wrong, many arguments, yeah. How many people on this call, when they're in the shower or driving or anytime they're alone and there's nothing going on, are arguing with somebody who's not there?
Right.
Everybody, right?
Sure.
And we talk about this powerful mind. Yeah, your mind's very powerful, but it's very powerful against you. And so what we have to do is we actually have to literally reprogram the dendrites, the neurological pathways, so that the normal path of least resistance is to be supportive towards your success and both your happiness too.
Well, it's kind of funny because and that's exactly way most people build a business is they constantly think of what can possibly go wrong, what can possibly go wrong, what can possibly go wrong, and that's the way most people build a business, and meaning that I look, okay, what's the worst scenario that can possibly happen? Okay, let's fix this. What can go wrong in the scenario? Okay, let's fix that, and then what can go wrong? So they're constantly thinking negatively about their whole business as far as what's going wrong.
Right. One of the things we teach, Armin, is in our wizard training is focus on what you want, not on what you don't want.
Exactly.
Put your time and energy and intention on what you want, where you want to go. Listen, I'm going to be right up front here. I think probably as well as anybody and again, I didn't feel it was such a feat, but everyone in the publishing industry feels this is a feat, to be able to go number one in your first week out on the New York Times bestseller list. That for an unpublished author, that's never been totally unheard of.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely unheard of. Now, I can guarantee, I can tell you how that happened. Number one, exactly what I teach. My financial blueprint is set for number one. That's all there is to it. I got to be right up front with you. So we went number one on Monday with the New York Times business list, and on the 2 days before that, when I found out where we were on the overall advice list, which is even much harder, that's where Bob Green's Oprah's guys workout is, and where Blink is, or all these these major players, Joel Osteen's. The guys have been selling 40,000 books a week for the last 3 6 months.
Right.
Very hard to get on there, and And everyone called me up and they're going, because we found out that we were number 2 on the overall advice list, which is huge.
Sure.
And then everyone's I got to be honest with you, Armin. Everyone called me up one at a time. Oh my God, can you believe you hit number 2 on the New York Times advice list? It's the hardest list of all. It's unbelievable. Armin, I have to tell you something. It's the first time I've cried in 5 years. I wasn't crying from happiness.
Right.
No, I wasn't. I teach people to celebrate their success, and I was having a challenge and a half doing that. You know why? Because nowhere in my dream and nowhere in my intention was there a number 2 anywhere. I was not interested in number 2. And after I got over for a while, I was kind of very quiet. I had to talk to the team who had been, working so diligently in making this thing happen with us. And I had to talk to them. I tried to put on a happy face. I couldn't even do it. I couldn't even have a happy tone. All I could say was, we did our best, and now it's time to regroup, and we've got next week to cover now. We will get, mark my words, we will get to number 1. And it was like, and the guy from Harper, my publisher, goes, congratulations, that's unbelievable. We are so thrilled. You're going to be right through the industry. And I said, I don't know what you're so happy about. I said, we just came second in the Super Bowl.
Right.
And he goes, what are you talking about? I said, let me say this right now. You have a very different blueprint than I do. My blueprint does not work on number 2. It works on number 1 only. If I'm going to do something, it is either going to be the best. If I'm going to have a course, it's going to be a number 10. It's going to be a 10-level course. If I'm going to, not an 8, not a 9. If I'm going to have a book, it's going to be a 10-level book, not an 8 and not a 9. I have no interest in those things. Now, here's the funny part. My early adult years when I was not doing well, I was fine being a 7 or an 8 as long as I didn't have to work too hard. Do you know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And now I won't settle for that. And this is the message I want to give to everyone on this line. What you settle for is what you get. I'm going to repeat that. What you settle for is what you get. You have settled for your level of success thus far. Where you are, you may say, no, I want more. Well, really, okay? If you wanted more, you'd have more. It's more than wanting. It's committing. It's doing whatever it takes, and I mean whatever it takes to get to where you want to be. Well, I think number 3 in the book is that rich people are committed to being rich. And most other people, they just want to be rich. If it falls on my head, I'll take it. But are you willing to do what it takes? Are you willing to take the risks necessary, to be with the people necessary, to play the bigger game as necessary, to take the responsibility as necessary? Armin, you have I don't know how many thousands of students, but you take responsibility for putting together a program, even a college. This amazing seminar, the big seminar that you have coming up, which this is my first time there, and I've wanted to be on there for several years because you know that we run some major high-quality programs.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, and we only do level 10 programs, if not level 12 out of 10.
Right.
And I don't speak at many places. I will not. But I've wanted to be on this program for a long time because I know this is a level 10 program. I know this is the highest echelon of programming, and I only want to associate with that. And so that's been one of my intentions. And so, the people who are listening to this call, you took on creating a program. That is a big responsibility. You took on filling that program, another big responsibility. You took on the finances for that program. And so you take on the responsibility of something big and major. Most people on this call, they will not do that. They're afraid something is going to go wrong. They're afraid, what if, I don't have the time, it's not my thing, or whatever it is. But the point is this, your winners, rich people, make things happen. They have a vision, they make a commitment to that vision, and then they go for it, and they do not stop and will not stop until they have achieved that goal, period, over and out. And this is a necessity that we teach in our programs. You must continue until you achieve the goal. You cannot give up. Why? Because we're creatures of habit, Armand. And if you're willing to give up on this goal, guess what else you're willing to give up on? Every goal. Why? Not because it's a goal, but because of your habit of giving up. If you can't make it where you are, chances are good you ain't going to make it anywhere else. Why? Because your habits are preventing you from making it where you are. Is this making any sense at all?
Oh, it makes absolute sense. I just want to talk about one thing because, and I knew when you said that you came in at number 2, I knew that there's no way that you're going to accept that. I knew that way before you even mentioned it. So, but just because of what I know about you at this point, and that is that you're not willing to accept it, and you shouldn't accept it because that's, again, as you said, it's not part of your blueprint as far as what you want to do and what you intend to do. And I have 100% confidence, and I'm not really a betting person, but if I was to bet on anything, there would be no doubt that your book will be at the number 1 spot on all the lists that you happen to be on with the New York Times. And one of the things I want to mention, I just want to touch on here for you, and I think that many people have on this call, and that is the term which I don't even utilize. It's excuses, and because I'm sure that there could have been, talking with your staff, there could have been, I wouldn't say an excuse, but there could have been circumstances, let's say, that may have happened that it didn't get to where you wanted to be.
Armin, how about 20,000 books that weren't counted? How's that for a good reason?
That's a pretty good circumstance.
Yeah, that's a real good circumstance. But you know what? That's just the way it goes. And
exactly.
That's the way the game is played, and it's too bad I don't have control over that part of it. But I do have control over what I have control of, and I will create that. We'll create that reality somehow, both with our own intent, our own will, and with allowing the universe to work for us. We work both the warrior way and the wizard way. And so, I want to take off where you said there. They talk about excuses. You know what? People don't like the word excuses, Armin, so they never use it. They don't say, I've got an excuse, because they hate that word.
Right.
Here's the word they use, reason. I've got a reason.
Sure.
The reason this didn't happen is because blah, 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 blah. And you know what? Here's the problem. This is what we teach in our courses. The problem is you bought into that reason. You're
right.
believing that reason. You're going for that reason. You're believing that story. So the reason that we're not at number 1 is XYZ. Well, great. Now, if I buy into that reason, guess what? That reason's got me forever. So I cannot buy into in our courses. We teach you either have reasons or results. Reasons or results. You can't have both. Because if you have results, then you don't need the reasons. But if you have reasons, you won't have the results. One of the two. Just decide which kind of person you're going to be from here on in. Now, everyone listening, this is not a motivational speech. This is the way I've created millions and millions and millions, and multiply that by for the next 5 or 6 minutes, and you'll have how many millions I've created with these methodologies. All right? Now, here's the thing. It would be nice to be able to motivate people and say, you know what, forget about your reasons, go for your results, go for what you want, yada, 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 yada. That's all great stuff. Guess what? They won't do it. Why? Because it's habit. They are programmed to do what they're already doing. Everyone on this call, you have a money blueprint. You have a success blueprint. You are programmed with that blueprint, and that blueprint will unfortunately stay with you for the rest of your life. It has to. You're programmed for it to stay there unless you identify it and you alter it, you revise it. And that's exactly what we do with the book. That's exactly what we do in our intensive program, but it's what I'm going to be working with you at the big seminar.
And everyone that's listening right now, I mean, what you're hearing right now is I shouldn't say probably, is the most important part of your business. It's the thought process that Harv's talking about. And what amazes me is this is the number 1 part of most people's business that they don't focus on. This is the most important part of your business, but yet very, very few people even concentrate on this part of your business, and that's the exact reason why we have asked Harv to speak at the big seminar, because I feel very strongly that about this process, and I feel very strongly about the way Harv teaches this process. You can tell in the last 40 minutes what he has done is basically giving you the basics as far as why you are not where you want to be, and has even given you some instructions as how to get there. The next step is in your hands. I mean, you can think of the reasons, as Harv just talked about, for not being at the seminar, but the thing that you need to understand is that the people that are going to be teaching you at the seminar, I mean, if Harv was there alone, it would be worth the admission to get to the seminar.
Transformational would be the word. That's all I can say. If you gave me that stage for the entire time, these people would be. I'm going to say this right now. if you don't mind me,
No, go ahead.
mixing in here. Listen, everyone on this call, these mostly people are business people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Your business, the way your level of your business right now, how well your business does right now, is a reflection of your money blueprint. Okay? Let me just backtrack this a little bit so you can see what I mean. You think your business is outside of you. There's you in your business. Your business is a reflection of you, but it's mostly a reflection of this money blueprint that we're talking about. For example, what is your blueprint set for? Are you set for success, mediocrity, failure, for struggle, for ease, for having a nice balance in your life, for working very hard for your money, for up and down yo-yo effects, for very consistent income, and there's certain levels of income that your blueprint is set for. Are you preset for earning $50,000 a year, $100,000 a year, $200,000, $500,000? Those are preset levels. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Let's say your financial blueprint, your money blueprint, is preset for earning, say, net of, I don't know, let's say $75,000 a year. Okay, that's fine. Guess what? You will inherently, unconsciously create your business in such a manner and make decisions within your business in such a manner to produce exactly $75,000 a year in profit, even though consciously you are convinced that you are trying your best to make $500,000 a year in profit. But you won't do that. Why? Because your money blueprint is set for 75, and that's all there is to it. And you will inherently make those decisions without even knowing it. How do you know? Because you already did. You already made those decisions, and this is your result. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And you're not going to make any different decisions without changing that blueprint on the inside. And so the easiest way to understand how effective this blueprint is and how sneaky it is with my own wife. So here she is. She goes out before we've changed her blueprint, revised her blueprint. She would go out and she would go to the mall and she sees this green purse, and her mind says to her, "Wow, look at that green purse. I've needed a green purse to go with the green shoes I bought with that dress, and this. And look, it's 25% off." Okay, I needed the purse. It's 25% off. Wow, I'm going to get the purse. This makes perfect sense. It does, doesn't it, Armand?
Yes.
She noticed that nowhere in her file box, and our mind is nothing more than a file box of storage of information, nowhere in that file does it say, "Oh, but I happen to be $3,000 in debt right now, and so maybe I should hold off." That file is MIA, missing in action, okay? It's gone. It's not there. It never was there. She never had a file that said, if you're in debt, don't spend more right now. That doesn't exist for her. So her a logical, sensible decision is, I needed it. It's 25% off. This is a good choice, all right? This is how sneaky our entire blueprint is, our subconscious is. The reason that you're in the place you're in right now, whether it's good or bad, is because you make decisions to create that reality. And your decisions make perfect and logical sense to you. But look at the result. Look at the fruits. That will tell you what the roots are set for. If you are a multi-millionaire and really, really happy, then you're doing great. And your decisions are working well for you. Your unconscious, natural decisions. But if you're not, and you think you could do a lot better financially, have much more potential, then you have made decisions and choices that have put you into this position, whatever position it is. You created this reality for yourself. Now, how do you create a different reality? By creating new choices, by making new choices. But guess what? You don't have those choices to make. They're not in your file box. How are you supposed to make them? That's what we do. We add to the file box. We delete the stuff in that box that's not working and not producing financial results, and we install new files in there that produce success and wealth on a natural and automatic basis, in the same way that someone like myself or like even a Donald Trump would do it. His natural way, his natural choices and decisions lead to wealth. And guess what? When we're done over there at the big seminar, that's what's going to start to happen for you guys. Plus, we have a way, Armin, as you know, of a big, big, shocking surprise for your audience, for your students there, that they're going to be, well, all I can say is some of them will probably faint when they hear what we have for them.
I know they will faint. But this whole process, to everyone that's listening, is the key to your success. There's no way I could explain it as well as Harv could. Number one, I don't know the information as well as Harv does, because he has created just revolutionary processes that will unleash what your blueprint, release it, and then basically set new ones for you. And it can happen for you. He's taught literally hundreds of thousands.
Yeah, 250,000 people now over 12 years. We have probably the largest seminar company in the country. I have 138 full-time employees, and all with this one major premise here. We have people come from all over the world. They come from Switzerland and England and Australia and Japan and Singapore and every state in America and every province in Canada and Mexico and every South America. And here's why. We don't advertise, so how do they get there?
Right.
They come all word of mouth. It's so funny, Armin. I'm sure you've had this experience too. A year and a half ago, we had one person come from Switzerland.
Right.
Now we have like 80 at a shot come from Switzerland.
Sure.
Why? Because then 2 people came, then 8 people came, then 50 people came, and so on and so on. It's the same with every single country. And we have so many people that we make such a massive difference for that they come in for the 3-day weekend. That's it. They come from Australia for 3 days and go home. And it's not one, it's hundreds of people do this. Why? Because it works in the real world. That's why the book is number one. That is why you have me on your program, and I'm blessed to be there because don't forget I have a little bit of marketing prowess myself, and I also teach marketing too. But I don't go into any of that stuff until we work with the foundation, the roots, the file box, the files in your file cabinet, so you can pull out the ones that are useful for you and make choices that are working for you. And here's the difference. What we do is we make it so that it's a natural choice. It's not going to even seem any different to you once you begin working with the processes that I'm going to give you. It's not even going to seem any different to you except for the result. You're going to go, wow, look at this. I hardly did anything, and, an extra $300,000 came my way. Oh, my God. Or, I bought this, and it just went skyrocketing. Or I put this ad in, and before when I tried something like this, I barely broke even, and now I have a 6-to-1 return. Like, what's happening here? And you don't even know that you're the one who created it because of your natural and automatic decisions. It just seemed like the normal thing for you to do to make that decision. Put the headline like this, change this over here, put the coupon over there, and it was just a normal thing for you. You didn't have to think about it. But your normal decision-making mode will turn to gold, and because it's about being automatic and natural, just like myself, just like Donald Trump. When Donald Trump has a decision to make, it usually turns to gold. It makes it success. And what happens if it doesn't? He has a way of turning it around in a very short order so that it does. Yes or no?
Yes.
And that's the difference. And it's not about it's a hype, and it's not a bunch of motivational crap, and it's that stuff's really great. He'll say, Harv, are you a motivational speaker? And I go, first, don't ever call me a speaker, and secondly, I hope that my style is fairly motivating and inspiring from an energetic level, but I'll tell you what, this is pure magic from the standpoint of permanent. And the difference between motivation and permanence is huge. I think motivation is great for a great what they call a suntan effect. It's great for a day, maybe a couple of hours. It's wonderful. Okay, makes you feel good. That's a good thing. Except for this, what happens tomorrow? What happens the next day? Well, you're back to this worry. Why? Because you still have the same habits. You still have the same dendrites. You still have the same files in your mind. Well, what we do is very different. The reason people work with us is because we work on a cellular level. We make permanent change that is natural, automatic, and lifelong.
Sounds great to me.
It is, and we're totally blessed to be able to do it for people. It's nothing but a pure joy, and I love to work with your group because you have such strong tools, such incredible marketing ideas. And everybody on this call, you better know what you've got here with Armin, because again, we have never met face to face, but I have only heard this guy's name 6,472 and a half times, okay? And every time I hear about it, I hear nothing but the word brilliant right behind it and right beside it. And that's from people who know what brilliance is when it comes to marketing. What he does works. And what you've got to be doing is learn the marketing tools, have the toolbox that can support those tools, and I guarantee between the two of us, nothing will stop you.
Harv, I mean, you just spent the last 60 minutes with us just giving a tremendous amount of information for everyone. So I really appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule, because I know you're busy reaching that number one status for next week. I know all I can say is I'll have to send a get well gift for your staff after next week.
Well, this was their big week, so now we've got some other things going, and then we'll be we'll probably be moving down a little bit and then moving back up as it was our strategy to get the bookstores rolling and stuff like that. But what I'm really proud of is that people don't know me at all, and they just pick up Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. We've already started to see we're number one in Barnes and Nobles in the stores. And we didn't do anything in the stores. So it's very evident. And same with Borders. We're number 2 and moving to number 1 this week. It's very evident that people who are reading the book are going, oh, my God, this is what I've been searching for, and passing it along and telling other people to buy the book Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. And so, it's like I said, I'm sure you feel the same way, that you're blessed to be in the position you're in. You're blessed to be able to help people. You're blessed to be able to have people. You just be able to want to contribute a little bit. And from a business standpoint, of course, that has to be there. But it's about contribution. And I'm going to say this at your event, and I'm going to say it right now. Some people say, well, what's so important about being rich? Why do I have to be rich? I just want to be comfortable. Let me say this right now. I'll say this on stage when I see you. If your intention is to be comfortable, I guarantee one thing: you'll never be rich and you'll never be happy. Why won't you be rich? Because comfortable doesn't lead to rich. Why won't you? They're worlds apart. Why won't you be happy? Because when you're comfortable and you're in your comfort zone, you are not growing. Now, here's the problem. Any physics will tell you this, that if, as a cellular structure, as a living organism, if you're not growing, what are you doing? You're dying. You're automatically dying. There's no static, okay? We're a dynamic structure. What that means is if you're not growing, you're automatically dying. If you don't want to grow, if you don't want to keep on increasing, you're going down. That's all there is to it. I hate to be the one, the bearer of bad news, but, you can't be just comfortable and stay there. It doesn't work like that. You have to consistently grow in every part of your health and your wealth and your happiness and your relationships and your heart and your spirit, all of it. And that's when you're happiest. You're happiest not when you're comfortable, my friends. You're happiest when you're growing. True or true?
True.
That's when people are happy. When they feel productive, they feel effective, they feel like they're growing, that's when they're happiness. If your intention is to be comfortable, you'll never, ever, ever be rich or happy. And my job is to get you out of that comfort zone into the box of the files that you've got right now into some new files that will really, really move you to new levels of success very quickly. And I know it sounds like, wow, this guy's like making big promises, but after 250,000 people, you get to do that. Because again, the first time I did this, you don't even know it's going to work for anybody. I didn't know it would work for myself.
Right.
But after 12 years, Armand, and after you've seen our seminars, we have somewhere between 2,000 and 2,500 people at a shot come to one of our 3-day events altogether. I mean, and we do it almost every weekend.
And they're huge. I mean,
they're massive.
It's just amazing. I mean, I've talked to so many people that have attended your seminars, and every person that I've talked to that's walked away with it from your seminars just been totally floored with the content and the information, and I just can't stress to people enough how what you can teach them will actually change their lives. I mean, some of the people listening on this call, if everyone that's listening right now, some of you are familiar with Harv and what he's done and what he can show you. Some of you have been to his events and you know what he has taught and how it's affected your lives. Other people, you may be listening to Harv for the first time right now, but I can assure you that in the last 60 minutes, what you've heard was exactly how he teaches, how he can just unlock what's held up inside of you, and how he can replace those files that he's been talking about and reprogram yourself for success. And what he just talked about a moment ago, it's about being comfortable and as opposed to being rich. I mean, it's very simple. A good friend of mine, John Reese, he said business, when it comes to business, he says it's only one thing. It's either yes or no. And that is exactly the same way that success is, and what Harv's talking about here. It's either you want to get rich or you don't want to get rich. But the fact is that if you're making the decision to grow and continue to grow your business, then you need to do something about it, and you need to do something now about it.
Getting rich isn't just about for you. Getting rich allows you to have a lot more freedom for your time, for your family. But most of all, here's my feeling, and I'm going to say this again over and over again. If you have the wherewithal to get rich, I say do it. I say it's your duty to get rich. Why? If you have that wherewithal, that potential, and we can unlock that, you can get rich, it's your duty to get rich. Why? So you can contribute to people who don't have that wherewithal. There's a lot of people in this world and even in this country who do not have the wherewithal that you do. They may be handicapped, they may be mentally handicapped, physically handicapped, they may come from different backgrounds, they just have no chance whatsoever, and whatever their situation is, they just don't have that wherewithal. They don't even have that potential. I don't believe that everybody's got amazing potential, because some people are so stuck and so, in an environment that is not conducive to it. If you're listening to this call, you do have the potential, right? If you were lucky enough to be with Armin, you must have the potential, because you wouldn't have that seed inside of you that would even be on a call like this. So it's your duty, as far as I'm concerned, to get rich and then be able to contribute to everybody else. Why not you be the person who builds that hospital, or builds the wing to the hospital, or contributes to the life-saving technology and equipment to that hospital? Why not you, okay? It's not up to everybody else. It's up to all of us. And I just want to say one last thing, Armin, and I hope you don't mind me saying this, because you said you had a higher echelon group. I'm going to go for it right here.
Good.
The people who are on this call right now, I'm hoping that you're going to come to Armin's seminar. Now, let me say this right now. I have nothing to do with it financially from that standpoint. I don't get anything from that. It's just that you need to do whatever it takes to learn to go to the next level. And I know that between Armin's tools and the other trainers there and what I can give you, I know that your life will change. I know that. Now, here's the thing. If there's any part of you right now that is saying to yourself, well, it sounds pretty good, but I don't know, it's so inconvenient, or I don't know, you have so much money to go down there, or, I'm just not sure. Here's what I want you to do. Whatever the phrase is that you're using to possibly doubt yourself or stop yourself in this case, I want you to go write it down. This is what I do with my students. I want you to go write it down, because that phrase of how you're stopping yourself from coming to this seminar is how you stop yourself from everything else in your life. It sounds perfectly logical right now, doesn't it? But guess what? I guarantee one thing, my friends. It's not the first time you've said it. In fact, I guarantee another thing. You say this to yourself all the time. These are the words you use to get yourself out of everything. This is how you keep yourself in your comfort zone. It's too far. It's too inconvenient. Too much money. I don't have the time. Just write it down, because those are the stopper words for you. Armin, are you following what I'm saying here?
Absolutely.
And your people need to come to an echelon where they need to know what stops them, so they can identify it and they stop buying into that stuff. Because it's just a fear-based protective mechanism. I'm going to teach you all this at the program. So I don't want anything stopping you, because whatever stops you here stops you everywhere. So I want you to be at this program as if it's my program, because I'm going to be one of the main trainers there, and I have a single job. My job is to help transform your life in the same way, in the same blessed way that I was transformed. Now, let me say this right now. People ask me all the time, Harv, you don't need the money. Why do you do what you do? I'm going to be right up front with you. I'm keeping a promise. To who? To the Great Spirit. What does that mean? It means when I was so frustrated, when I didn't know where I remember sitting at a pool crying. People were swimming. I was crying. I couldn't understand. I said, what am I, stupid? Like, why isn't this working? And, I tried so hard and nothing was working. And it was up and down, up and down, up and down. I worked my butt off, and still nothing came. And I vowed. I looked up to the sky. I remember I was cloud watching, and I looked up at the sky. It was like a spiritual experience for me. I said, God help me. If I ever get rich or financially free or financially successful, I promise you, I promise, all my life, I will help others do it the same way. I will help other people do this. because I was just looking for someone to help me, and nothing they did worked for me. And so I said, if it ever happens, I will help people in the same way. And so the reason I do what I do is because I'm keeping a vow to Spirit, a vow to myself, a vow to whatever entity is out there, that I was able to be blessed enough to have this happen for me, and now I'm have the privilege of helping so many other people do the same thing. And so, it's my privilege again to be at the big seminar, and it's going to be your privilege to be there too. So don't talk yourself out of anything. And if by chance you do, write it down and notice how you did that, and then say, you know what, to this phrase, you're not going to talk me out of this again, because this is how I keep myself where I am.
It's great. Harv, thank you very much for spending the last 60 minutes with us, and I look forward to meeting you in 30 days from today.
I'm very much looking forward to it. It's going to be awesome. I can't wait to meet all your folks there, and make sure they come up to me and say hi, at least.
Oh, I'm sure they will. They won't miss you.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Harv. And folks, those of you that are listening on right now, what I want to do is I want to tell you about something else that we're doing for the seminar itself. I was talking with actually my wife the other day, and I received an email, and someone said this to me. They said, you should, and I normally don't take advice really by email too much. I'd rather talk to a person. But they said something that was very interesting. They said, you should give away the recording of your seminar so people will remember what was said. And I thought about it. In fact, I spent all night thinking about it. And I said, that would be a tremendous deal, but it's going to be a lot of work and a lot of effort for us to do. As many of you know, because many of you have bought them previously, is that we sell the recordings of our event, the audios, for $400 of that event, and we've done it time and time again. Well, what I'm doing for this particular event, for the next 100 people that actually sign up for the event, if you've already signed up, you're automatically going to receive this. But for the next 100 people that sign up for the event, what you're going to receive is you're going to receive the full recording of the seminar, the full audio recordings of the seminar, in addition to all the other bonus, over $2,000 worth of bonuses that we're giving away right now for the event. This is so when you get home, you're going to be able to actually pop in the CD, listen to what was said. This way it's going to retain the information that much more. And you're going to be able to listen to that on the way, I shouldn't say on the way home, because it's going to take us a few days after the event to put everything together. But as soon as we put it together, probably within the first week after the event, we'll be able to ship everyone the CD. They'll have all the recordings right there to play, and we're going to show you some great ways to actually utilize that training and to even get it deeper into your system as far as retaining that information. So we're going to have a great bonus that's for the next 100 people to do it. I have to remind you of two things. First of all, the hotel is almost at capacity. That's not a marketing play. That's actually a fact. We have about 50 rooms left in our block. There's a Marriott next door, and we're working on arrangements for that. Second thing is that in order to book your airfare, it's 30 days out as of today. So it's an optimal time to book your airfare for the event. So what I want you to do is do one thing and one thing only. Go to the website. The website is this, bigseminar.com/indexatlanta.html. Go there. Read the website. Spend 5 minutes. Read the website. Click the link at the bottom and register your seat for the seminar. You'll automatically be put under the list for the recordings, so you'll receive that immediately after the event. Harv, again, I'd like to thank you so much for taking the time out for this call. And, again, I look forward to meeting you, and I wish you continued success with your book.
Thank you. Thank you so much, and thanks to everybody on the call, and thanks for being such a great learner. In Secrets to the Millionaire Mind, my book, and number 17 is Rich People Always Learn and Grow, and poor and middle-class people, well, they think they already know.
Tremendous. Thank you again.
Talk to you soon.
And everybody, I look forward to seeing you. We're going to have another call on Thursday, but what you need to do is you need to go ahead and register your seat for the seminar. What you're going to learn from Harv Eker is going to be amazing. I can guarantee you one thing, and I really guarantee anything, is that what he's going to do at the event is going to shock you as to what he's going to allow people at the big seminar to do. It's going to be the most amazing thing you'll ever see, and I couldn't believe it when I first heard about it.
Yeah, it is shocking, isn't it?
It really is. I mean, the whole, and It's brilliant. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
What's happening for many reasons.
Yeah.
And folks, the way that you're going to find out what I'm talking about is to be at that event. You need to be there. Whatever your reason is, as Harv said, write it down. Find it out, because that is the reason that's stopping you from succeeding in all areas of your life. Do that today and get registered. And I hope to see everyone in Atlanta, Georgia on April 8th, 9th, and 10th. Thanks again, everybody, and thank you, Harv. Everyone have a great night.
Thank you, and blessings to all.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Welcome to the conference call tonight, folks. We're going to talk with Harv Eker this evening, and we're going to talk to him in just a few minutes. But before that we do, again, this is all part of the big seminar preview series that we have done leading up to our next big seminar in just a few short weeks in Atlanta, Georgia on April 7th, 8th, and 9th. We've got a huge lineup of people already coming. We've literally sold out one hotel. Actually, I'm sorry, we not only sold out one hotel, we sold out two hotels. We're working on selling out our third hotel. So, again, we've got room. You can still make it. You can still get there, and we've got all the details on the website. In the email that you receive, there's a link to go to our website to find out all about it, who we have there. We have people like Yannick Silver. We have people like Declan Dunn. We have people like Mike Filsay, Morgan Westerman, John Childers, Mike Stewart, Craig Perrine, Stephen Pierce, Dave Lacani, Alex Mondozzi, and myself, Armin Morin. And on tonight's call, we're going to be talking with another one of our special guests that we're going to be having at the big seminar. Again, last year we had I got the chance to meet Harv Eker at our big seminar. He spoke, and the crowd went wild. It was just amazing. He's recently put out a book, and that book went up to right to the top of the New York Times bestseller list. And I can tell you, this is an amazing book, and he's literally taught tens of thousands, I should say hundreds of thousands of people all over the world, his techniques, his philosophies, his mindset changes that has taken him from literally zero to multi-millionaire status in just a very short period of time. So, again, we're going to learn a lot of information tonight, so grab a pen, grab a piece of paper, do what you need to do in order to take notes, because this is going to be an amazing call. So, first of all, let me start off with this. Harv, welcome to the conference call this evening.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. It's always great to be with you because you have great people with you, and I guess that's where we want to start. Just I want to acknowledge everybody who's on the call, and there's a reason for that. As you may or may not know, I am a trainer. I am in the training business. I never call myself a speaker, by the way. I am not a speaker. A speaker, I think, speaks at you, and my job is to train you, and that training entails training for something, as in, if you're going to train for golf, at the end of that you'd be a much better golfer. If you're going to train for piano, at the end of that training you'd be a much better piano player. Well, if someone spoke to you about piano, I don't think you'd be much better at it. So, that's one of the biggest distinctions that I would consider about myself, and I'm very, very pleased to be invited to the big seminar, because my job there is to train you in a couple of specific arenas, and one of those is going to be around the millionaire mindset. But the other thing that's special for this year is that I'm going to throw something pretty different at you, and I'm actually going to give you some of the goods that I usually save for my high echelon boot camps, and literally go into the millionaire business mind. And that's how literally going to talk about how rich business people think very differently than most poor and middle-class business people.
Now, Harvey, you are very qualified in order to do that. In fact, you literally went from zero to a multi-million-dollar company in just a period of just a couple years.
Yeah.
And explain to everyone just a little bit about your story, a little bit about your background, and what you accomplished during that period of time.
Well, I guess the best way to do that is to understand that I didn't come from a very rich background at all. Yeah, my parents came from Europe with $30 in their pocket, the old story, and it was literally, it was kind of tooth and nail for them to survive. And I grew up understanding that money meant survival. If you didn't have it, you were dead, and that's what it was for them. And so, for me, money became quite important. But and all my friends, when I was young, I remember they wanted to be baseball players and football players and firemen and policemen and astronauts, and I just wanted to be a millionaire. I didn't know exactly what it meant, but that's what I wanted to be. But when I got out of school, I went for my holy grail. Guess what? Not much happened. And literally from the time I was 18 years old till for the next 14 years, I did nothing but struggle. And, I thought I was fairly intelligent. I thought I, understood something about business and something about money, and I certainly had the desire, like many people on this call. And everyone told me I should be doing better, but I wasn't, and I didn't know what it was. And all I could think of was, I'm in the wrong business, or I'm in the wrong partner, or I've got the wrong city, or I see an opportunity and I jump into that one. And I think some people on the call might relate to some of this, right? And so literally just nothing was working for me. And finally, some serendipitous things occurred that transformed my life. And one of those things was really the understanding that I was living in my parents' basement apartment. It wasn't even an apartment; it was just the basement, and I lived there because I really couldn't afford rent anymore. And I was again so up and down on my money. And it was another time that I'd moved back for the fourth time in 5 years, and can imagine, Armin, how I felt, being a male and moving back to your parents' house every year or so because you can't afford your own rent, and now you're getting to close to where you're in your late 20s, and I felt like I don't even want to use the word, you know what I'm saying, right?
Exactly.
And so literally I felt so bad about myself, and my dad used to play cards with 5 gentlemen, every Tuesday night, and one of these guys was really, 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 really rich. And he was one of the richest guys in the entire city. He must have owned, 20 apartment buildings, 10 office buildings. This guy was loaded. But what I loved about him is that he never put it in your face. He wore normal clothes. He drove a normal Pontiac at that time. He was a real family man. He always had a smile and a good word to say about everybody. And it was really the opposite about what I'd heard about rich people, right? And literally, this guy was so nice. And so, one time I guess he felt sorry for me in passing. He was going to the bathroom, and he went downstairs and he saw me. He goes, "Oh, you're back again." And I felt like slapping him in the face. And he goes, he says, "I'm just not sure about you." He says, "What is going on with you? Why are you having all these problems? Your dad says that you can't turn a buck." And I'm going, "Oh, that's great. My own father, right, saying that about me." And so literally, he said, "I'm going to give you a secret that was given to me." And I go, "Well, sure, whatever." From this guy, I was going to take it. And he said something, the most simplest thing in the world that I'd ever heard, and it changed my life. And he said, "Harv, there's a lot of rich people." I said, "Yeah, well, thanks for rubbing it in." And he goes, "They have some things in common." I go, "Okay." He said, "Then if you want to be rich, all you have to do is do what rich people do." And how simple is that? And I went, "Okay, well, what do they do?" And he goes, "Well, there's things you need to study up on and research and whatnot, but the first thing is you need to think like they think." And many rich people think in very similar ways. Poor people think in similar ways. Mediocre, middle-class people think in certain ways, and rich people think in certain ways. And extremely rich people, billionaires, think in very different ways. And if you think in that way, you're going to take the actions that they would take, and you're going to get the same results most likely. And it was so simple, and I just never thought of that before. And so I really began studying how rich people thought and acted, but not just in any arena, but in business, because that's, as an entrepreneur, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to make it in business. So I really became a bit. I was always been a systemizer kind of thing, and so I said, I'm going to find out their system. And for the next 6 months, I didn't work at all. I lived in my parents' place, and I asked them to please feed me. And all I did, I took this on as this major project, and I literally studied every book, every magazine article, every biography, every autobiography, every single thing I could ever find on rich people, rich business people, from the Andrew Carnegie's right through to the even Donald Trump in those days, and Steve Jobs, and all of these people, what they had in common. And I put together several things that I believed they had in common, and I started a new business. And this, by the way, was my 12th try, 12th business. None of them ever went bankrupt. They just didn't do anything, couldn't make a living at them. And in 2.5 years, I went from a $2,000 credit card loan to a millionaire. And lo and behold, I couldn't believe it. I said, oh, my God, like I've hit on the gold mine here. These 7 principles are literally what it takes. Well, that was all fine and dandy from the business standpoint because now I knew how to do it business-wise. But guess what happened? 2 years later, it was all gone. Every dime, and I was upside down again. And I'm not going to get into it very heavily right now, but I realized that there was something more going on, and it was an internal thing. And what I now understand what it was what I teach now, which is called about the money blueprint. And literally each of us has a personal money blueprint already ingrained in our subconscious mind, and it's this blueprint more than anything else that will determine your financial life. So that means you can be the best business person, the best at your job, the best internet guy, the best real estate guy, the best stock strategies. You can know everything about marketing, everything about communication, every negotiation tactic, but if your subconscious money blueprint isn't preset for a high level of success, you're never going to amass a large amount of money, and if by chance you do, like me, you'll somehow manage to lose it. Well, I found out a lot more about the blueprint, my blueprint, because I've been doing some heavy-duty personal development work for myself to become a better father, actually. That's what I mean about serendipity. And sure enough, everything began to change. Everything started flowing my way. And all I can tell you is that it has never stopped. Once I began working on the roots instead of the fruits, the blueprint, the subconscious blueprint, instead of just the elements of just business or just money, everything changed. But here's the deal: it changed permanently. And now we've taught over 350,000 people how to change their money blueprint, and because literally, and change it to create natural and automatic success. So your blueprint is very much like a thermostat. Okay, if the temperature in the room is 72 degrees, chances are really good what the thermostat is been set for what 72 degrees. Now here's where it gets interesting. Let's say that it gets very hot outside and the windows are open. Can the temperature in the room go to 77? And the answer, of course, is of course it can. But what will eventually happen? That's right. The thermostat will kick in automatically and drive that temperature right down to 72 again. Let's say it's very cold outside and the windows are open. Can the temperature in the room go to 65 degrees? And, of course, the answer is absolutely. But what will eventually happen? The thermostat will kick in and drive that temperature right back to 72, meaning the only way you can permanently, and here's the key word I want everybody to understand. If you have a piece of paper, write it down, big letters, permanently. The only way to permanently change the temperature in that room is to change that setting of that thermostat. And the only way to permanently change your financial life, no matter what else you know, is to change your financial thermostat, otherwise known as your subconscious money blueprint. And what people don't understand, Armand, is that literally they're programmed to do what they're doing. In other words, we're very robotic in nature. The mind is like that. It's a survival mechanism. It's going to do what it's programmed to do. And so literally, here's the thing. All of us were basically taught how to do money, right? Nobody comes out of the womb doing money. So how do you handle money? How do you manage money? How do you earn money? What do you think about money? All those things and emotions around it, and whether you work hard or whether you have a nice easy going around it or whether you struggle around it, all those things were taught to us. And how are they taught? And they were taught by what we modeled from our parents. They were taught by what we heard from our parents and other people and culture and media and whatnot, and also our specific experiences that occurred around money when we were young, and then we took those as gospel. And so literally what we don't realize is most of us were taught about money by people who didn't have a lot of it or they had a lot of emotional issues around it. Their ways and means and habits and thinking patterns became our ways automatically, and we never really examined that the way we think about money or business, which is another way of doing this, is a pre-learned proposition that's subconsciously ingrained, and we just make our choices based on what we think is going to be the right choice, but you'll know if it's the right choice based on what? Based on the result. And for most people, I'll say this right now, if you're not reaching your full potential financially in any way, shape, or form, it's not just a lack of what you know. That's a possibility. It's more about your financial blueprint, which is preset for a very specific level of success. And you don't even know it. It's automatic. You've got that thermostat set for 72. When you say, I want to go to 100. Well, you can't go to 100 unless you set the thermostat for 100, and even if you do it, as I said, it'll shoot back down to 72. And it's kind of like, Armin, have you heard of something called a set point when it comes to your weight?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so, we have a metabolic set point that's natural in our own body, and it's only specific to us. It's someone else doesn't have that same set point necessarily. It's like a thumbprint for ourselves. And it's our metabolic rate. And it'll determine how fast you burn off any energy that you intake. And so literally, that's why some people are much heavier and some people are much skinnier, and they eat exactly the same thing. It's your metabolic rate. And, of course, that changes as you get older. That's why most people seem to gain a few pounds around the waist. And if it's anything like last year, Armin, and you keep on taking us out for those steak dinners, I won't be worried about the set point because I'll just be fat, okay? So literally, we have a set point when it comes to our money. And most people never recognize it. They never think about it. They never talk about it. And nobody ever taught us about it. Nobody ever taught us in school or in family or in psychology class. Nowhere did we ever learn that we have a set point for our money, our financial set point. And I'm telling you again, I've worked with over 300,000 people from all over the world. People come in, as you know, we have a 3-day seminar. They come in from all over the world to do this, and we actually change their money set point, their financial blueprint, right on the spot, right there, right in the seminar, right on site. They walk in with one blueprint, they walk out with another blueprint set for automatic success. Now, take this, and as a special bonus, not only are we going to work at your seminar, big seminar, on the set point for people, and by the way, some of the people who've been there last year, we're going to go to a whole new advanced section on this and actually do some work right in the seminar on changing the set point. Not only are we going to help start to change the set point in the seminar, but I'm going to install some of the newest arenas of what I'm working on. My book's called Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. At some point in time, there's going to be another work called Secrets of the Millionaire Business Mind. And so literally we were all taught how to do business or how to think about business. And the way we think about business determines our actions, doesn't it? Our thoughts lead to actions, lead to results. And, of course, that leads to our results. And so there's very specific ways that rich people think very differently about business, which determines how they act around business, than most poor middle-class people. And I'm going to actually, at the seminar, give several very, very specific ways that rich people think differently than poor people in the arena of business.
And it's just amazing because, so many people, when they get involved in a particular situation, and maybe it's business, if it doesn't work the first time, then what they normally do is just do more of what they did the first time, and quickly discovered that that's really not going to work. In fact, that's not ever going to work unless, as you just said, they change their actual mind and how they think about business itself. Because we've been all trained, just like as you stated, in a certain way to have a certain understanding of how business works. And once you realize the proper way, as you teach and you've taught literally hundreds of thousands of people how to do this, that allows the change to happen very, very rapidly. Now, I know one of the things that you do, Harv, at your events and at your seminars is really this, is you invoke what I would refer to as almost an instant change, an instant turnaround, if you will, about how people change. Because many people are under the preconception that in order to succeed in business, in order to succeed in life, in order to change their mental outlook of the whole of anything, that it takes years and years and years to do this. And I know you are a firm believer in making change and making it happen fast, as opposed to going through these years. Could you explain to people about that and why that's so important?
Yeah, that's a really good understanding because literally, change, you've heard this before, change can happen in an instant. But why can change happen in an instant? Where does it begin? It begins at the roots, right? Again, your thoughts lead to your feelings, lead to actions, lead to results. Your results come from your original thoughts. Well, actually, where do your thoughts come? They come from your original programming. So if we can actually change the conditioned mind, the programming that goes into it, which is simply information that is done in a very specific way. So you got information. Let's say you're a vessel. You are a glass, and you have orange juice in there. Well, we weren't born as a glass with orange juice in it. Okay, you're born as a glass. Somebody filled up the glass with orange juice, and that's what you know. You look at yourself as a glass of orange juice. I'm going to tell you right now, you are not a glass of orange juice. You are a glass. You were born empty. Somebody filled it up, or you took on the demeanor and the personality of orange juice. Listen, They're in the same way that you got filled up with orange juice, we can dump some of that orange juice and fill you up with wine, or fill you up with Coca-Cola, or fill you up with beautiful water. It in the same way you got it the first time, you can get it again. Now here's the thing. People say, you know what, this is all a bunch of crapola. This is, you can't really change the way you think. You can't change your beliefs. Once you have your beliefs, you believe that. You know what, that's ridiculous. Let me just give you a quick example. Suppose for a moment that you have a friend, and you really trust this friend, and you believe, I'm going to use the word again, you believe this friend is trustworthy and reliable and a good friend. All right, and you've known them for 5 or 10 years, and everything's cool. And then one day, another associate of yours tells you that this friend who you've trusted and you believe is reliable has done something several times behind your back and said these things and done these things and whatever, and you go, there's no way. And then you find out that it's actually true. Everyone you've spoken to will say, oh yeah, he says this about you, da, da, da. And you go, oh my God. And now what do you believe? Right? You believe that he's not trustworthy, he's not a good friend, he's not reliable, okay? And how long did that take to change your belief about that person? It took 3 sentences, okay? It took someone giving you some brand new information that you didn't have before, but once it made sense to you, once you examined it versus your old belief that you were just going on automatically, and you start to say, where did I have that old belief from? Well, I just made it up. But, the reality is that what we're going to do is, even in your specific stage, is we can show people ways of examining, ways of thinking that they have that are just absolutely non-supportive to them. And installing, I'm going to use the word installing, and imprinting new possibilities for them to examine. And once you have some new information in the ways that we do it, like we use we use something called accelerated learning, which is what you're referring to. How do we, in our methodologies, people learn faster, remember more, and have 10 times the fun. And the reason is we use accelerated learning or super learning, and what it does is it ingrains the learning and imprints it permanently. And how we do that is with 3 primary methods. And everybody who's in any way training or teaching or learning, I need you to write these things down. These are the 3 things that must be in place for permanent change to occur. Number 1, high impact. Number 2, high frequency. Number 3, ongoing support. Okay? So what does that mean? High impact. What that means is that it's got to make a dent, an impact, an imprint in the cellular structure that's already there. Hence, why we use many physical activities that not just our body, it could be our mouth moving, it could be a breathing methodology, whatever, while we're doing something else, because the cells of the body must be involved. If you just sit there and I just yak at you, you're going to have a great time. You're going to laugh at all the jokes. You're going to go, hey, that was so funny. That guy's so motivating. And you're going to walk out with not one bit of change. Why? Because yakking doesn't do anything, all right? Not permanently. You have a high for, an hour, go, oh, that was so fun. That's not training, that's speaking. We don't do that, okay? And so literally there's ways of creating high impact. We have high impact processes. We have high frequency processes. And ongoing support is, of course, a lot of the things that you do for your clients and your group of students, which is to continuously feed them with information. And our information just happens to be the same information over and over and over again to support them in using and applying what we've given them the first time and creating a habit. See, you have something in your mind called neurological pathways. They're otherwise known as dendrites. And they're like these pathways, tubes, let's call them, that are pathways for information. And when you have a certain thought, a trigger comes up, and the trigger comes up as billionaire, okay, and me, a billionaire. Well, there's going to be a lighting up of a neurological pathway that's going to go to a file in your mind and retrieve what you've got in that file. And you may have, for me, a billionaire, you might have, that's ridiculous. Or you might have, who needs $1 billion? Or you might have, I'm not going to work my ass off. Or you might have, oh, sure, I totally think that, it's going to, and fast, really fast too. I deserve that. So those are held by your neurological pathways. And what we're able to do with high impact, high frequency, and the way that we do it is affect those neurological pathways and actually atrophy the ones that aren't working for you, like, me, a billionaire, I'll never be a billionaire. Why would I, how could I ever earn it? What do I deserve, to a new neurological pathway that's much more expanded, and that one would support where you want to go. Now, of course, for most people, a billionaire is a big stretch, but for many people, a millionaire is not, or a 10 millionaire is not, okay? And so literally, if we can install, and I will use that word very specifically, install information and reprogramming, then was the exact same way it was done the first time, then we can change you from a glass of orange juice, to a glass of apple juice, if that's what we want.
That's what you just said made so much sense in the fact of literally just the repetition and creating these new neural pathways in order to get a person to continue on with their thinking with the ongoing support that you and your organization provides. And I think that's those three items are extremely important. If people aren't taking notes right now, I think everyone on this call, if you're not taking notes right now, you're absolutely crazy, because the information that Harv's talking about right now applies directly to you whether you know it or not. Write it down, because this is some amazing information. I'm taking notes here on my end of it as well, too.
Yeah, you know what, Armin, people have to understand that information, like knowledge, is very, very important, okay? Your skill is important. Your knowledge is important. They have to understand how to market. They have to understand how to use the Internet. They have to understand how to use real estate, if that's where they're at. They have to understand the systems around. The knowledge has to be there, okay? But, again, the knowledge is more of an outgrowth of the blueprint of the mind, okay? So everything starts in your mind. And I know it's a soft skill. I know people are going, yeah, I've heard all this crap before. Yeah, my mind, yeah. But if your mind is saying that, you've got a problem. You have got a problem, because you are not a learner, okay? And one of the things I teach in my Secrets of the Millionaire Mind book is that rich people are always willing to learn and grow, and poor people think they already know, okay? And one of the biggest distinctions is that, if you can understand after this call that your mind will determine your life, okay? If that is the root, and if you don't change the root, you can have all the information you want, and the results will be temporary, because you'll always go back to the original fruit. Let me give you an example, the roots. So most people have what I'm going to call a lemon tree, okay? And they look at their tree, their life, and then they're looking at their fruits, and they don't like them. They go, I didn't want lemons. Come on, hey, I'm working hard. I want apples, okay? And so they look at their lemon tree. They go, I don't want this. And again, they're dealing with the outside world more, and they focus there. So they go up on the tree, and they get a ladder, and they go up there, and they pick off every lemon on that branch, on those trees, and they get rid of them, and they take a bushel of apples, and where the lemons were, they tape on apples onto the branches, and they get off the ladder, and they go and they admire their brand new apple tree. They go, wow, look at my apple tree, it's beautiful, and they're so happy. For how long? Well, what happens next season? Next season, they look at their tree, and I don't understand it. How on earth did I get lemons again? I spent hours putting up those apples. Where'd they go? Because they dealt with the fruits instead of the roots. And if I can empower anybody on this call, it would be to deal with you first. Deal with two things, your mind and your character, all right? And if that's the root of who you are, that will determine your choices and your actions. Now, and those actions will determine your results. If you are a person who has every skill on the planet on negotiating, but if your character is weak on the inside, people will just see right through you. It'll come out in your voice. It'll be in your eyes. It'll be in your heart. Nobody will do business with you, no matter what technique you use. Have you ever come across, Armin, you probably hear about this all the time, salespeople, people who learned every technique and every closing technique, and,
Sure.
Is that going to be Visa or MasterCard, sir? And it's like, give me a break, right?
Right.
And you wouldn't even deal with this guy for shoelaces, and this guy's trying to sell you a $10,000 item, and using techniques. You want to slap him in the face. It's like, shut up. I wouldn't even. You're not even reliable enough to be on time. You're not even reliable enough to do what you said you were going to do. The character traits that you have to develop as a person. I'm going to say that if I could give one message to everyone right now, it would be work on you. There's a saying that people have that says, fortunately or unfortunately, you take yourself with you wherever you go. You think the new vehicle is going to do it. You think the new business is going to do it. You think the new city is going to do it. You think the new seminar is going to do it. Well, they're all helpful. That's great. But guess what? Do it to what? Do it to what? You're like Play-Doh, okay? You're malleable. Who are you as a person? What is your character? What are your traits? Are you the kind of person that can not just create wealth, but hold it and grow it? One of the things we talk about in our seminars a lot is you have to be bigger than your problems, and most people are smaller than their problems. It means that there's a problem. I've been in meetings all day long, and then I hear about this issue about somebody challenging our trademark on something out of nowhere. They're not even in the same business, and I don't even know what they're doing, but it's going to cost me tens of thousands of dollars to defend it, and I'm not happy about that. And my mind, what's the first thing your mind does? Is a natural mind goes like, who needs this? I should just retire and go back on some boat and live on a hot tub, right?
Right.
But you know what? I'm trained. When that happens, my mind is trained. I am trained as a human being, as an enlightened warrior, to some of the things that we teach, to go to right away as I am bigger than any problems. Nothing will take me out. No problem is bigger than me. And if this is the way it's going to be, this is the way it's going to be. I can handle it and move on. What do most people do? Oh my God, that's terrible. I should get out of this business. I don't know if I'm cut out for this. I just should get a job. Guess what, my friends? Problems will follow you around forever until you grow bigger than those problems. It's like a test from the universe as far as I'm concerned. And so literally you have to grow yourself as a person, because as I say in the seminars a lot is that your wealth can only grow to the extent that you do. If you have to look at yourself as a container, okay? You are the container for your money. And if let's say you're a small container, but you happen to get big money, guess what happens? The container overflows, and the money overflows, and it goes somewhere else, right? Because you're not big enough to hold it, which is exactly what happened to me when I lost my money. I didn't know it was that. I didn't know anything. I blamed everyone and everything else for the fact I lost all my money. But it wasn't that. Now that hindsight's 20/20, I can look back at it and go, wow, I didn't realize, the character traits that I didn't have yet, and that's why I didn't have my money. That's why I lost my money. Plus, my blueprint was set for an up-and-down yo-yo effect. Guess why? Because my father's was like that, okay? Once I started recognizing that and working on that and using the techniques that we now teach, I was able to reverse that completely. I work on myself more than any knowledge right now. People say to me, well, you're going to learn about, you want to learn about every element about real estate. I go, yeah, I definitely love learning about that, but it's more important that I work on me, on my integrity, on my trustworthiness, on my reliability, on who I am as a person, in my caringness, in my heart, in my spirit. And if I'm the right person, here's a message I want everyone to write it down. If you want to be a success, then be a success. I'll say it again. If you want to be a success, then be a success. That means a success on the inside. Be a successful person. Because if you're a successful person, you will be successful at everything you do.
And that when we're talking about the starting point and where a person should start, again, working on themselves first prior or even simultaneously into being, because many people are already involved in their own business, but when they revert back, I should say, and start properly and start working on themselves, as you just said, you can be a success in literally everything that you do. It makes literally all these other aspects fall into place. It makes them seem insignificant because of the way that you are able to handle it.
Well, if you're a great carpenter and you get great tools, you're going to go through the roof. It's going to be fantastic. But if you got great tools and you're a crappy carpenter, what good are the tools? People say to me all the time, because we have 12 different programs. We teach business, we teach investment, we teach everything basically to help people become successful in the way that we've become successful, and we just have people model what we do. We're one of the fastest growing companies in the world. So literally, but if you're a crappy carpenter, it doesn't matter what sharp tools I give you. It's useless to you. If you're a great carpenter, you can still do pretty good with mediocre tools, right? But if you do what both of us are in the business of doing, which is help make you a great carpenter, and you develop and learn great tools, hey, come on. There's no stopping you. But first you've got to understand that both elements have to be there. You can't just do it on your own. What that means is this. What a lot of people do is and this is one of the things I'll talk about at the course at the big seminar, is that it's just too bad you don't need a license to get into your own business. That's what I think. I think it's a shame. I think you should pass a test. You should, and part of the test should be financial. You have to earn at least $100,000 in your first year, or you lose your license. And you shouldn't be in business if you don't have this license, because then it would force people to do well. It would force people to learn what they need to learn. Everybody thinks, I'm just gonna wing it. How hard can that be? I'll just open up this internet thing and try to do this, or I'll take a seminar, or I'll read a book, and I'll just go invest in real estate, or I'll just start the internet marketing thing, and they go wing it on their own. But you know what? People have gone before you. Like my mentor said, he said, there's been a lot of rich people before you. You don't have to reinvent the wheel, my friend. Do what they do. So everyone on this call, I want you to write one more thing down if you don't mind, and that is this. I want you to write down, do what Armand tells you to do. Now, that's not a feather in your cap necessarily, Armand.
Well, can I get my wife on the call just to listen to that too?
Yes. Do what Armand tells you to do. Now, why? Because he's a nice guy? Well, absolutely. But why? Because he's rich, okay? He's rich. He's successful. He's proven it. If he tells you to do something, it's because it works. I'm going to also say this. Follow and model rich people, okay? When you come to the big seminar, okay, you're going to meet several people who are very rich, very successful at what they do, and they're going to be the people teaching you. Now, what do you think? You're just going to read that in a book necessarily and just start? You think you're just going to just do it and figure it out on your own? Listen, if you want to figure everything out on your own, you've got a big problem. It's your blueprint. Your blueprint says, I don't need any help. I don't need any support. I can just do this on my own. I want to do it my way. Listen, I'm going to give you a little tip here, and you can take it or leave it. Get out of your ego. Egotistical people very seldom make money that lasts. They make money, they get rich, and then they lose it. Because if you're in your ego, you've got to do everything to be right. It's got to be my way, even if it doesn't work. And that goes back to the circular Armand of how you started. You said, what do people have in common? Poor people seem to do, or people who aren't successful seem to do the same thing over and over again. Why? Why? Because it's my way, and it's got to be my way. All right? Listen, your way ain't working too great. How about learning a way? A way. It doesn't have to be your way. You can adopt a way that seems to work really well for pretty well everybody who does it. There's a way that seems to work. There may be many ways, but learn those ways and install those ways. And you don't have to be a hero here. Just simply do what rich people do. Do what rich people do in money. Do what rich people do in marketing. Do what rich people do in business, and you'll be rich too. This is a very simple thing. Guess what, Armand? I hate to say this, but I'm 51 years old. I wish I would have learned this when I was 25. Okay, instead of struggling my buns off forever and feeling like a piece of crap about myself for so many years because I couldn't make it. Listen, you work on you. You work on your character. You work on your mindset. You work on the knowledge, and you do what rich people do. When people share with you information, don't just take it down and go, yeah, that's a great idea. Do it. Monday morning, do it. For everyone right here tomorrow, I'm going to give you a little homework for everybody here. I said, work on your mindset, work on your character, okay? So I want you to write down 3 characteristics. 3 characteristics. Now, what is the date? Is it April what is the date of the big seminar?
April 7th, 8th, 9th.
Okay. How many weeks do we have till there?
About 2.5.
2.5. Okay. So 3 characteristics. and you write down, and I don't have to tell you what they are. I'll tell you what they are at the seminar, okay? You write down what you believe are 3 characteristics that you could really improve on to make you a much better person in both character and in trait and in virtue of who you are as a person, okay? It could be compassion and caring. It could be love. It could be integrity. It could be reliability. It could be trustworthiness. It could be your being more accountable. It could be laughing more. Whatever it is you believe that would make you a better person, especially what are some of the things that you think that you admire about certain successful people? You think that's what makes them successful. The fact that they're able to. I'll give you an example. Tiger Woods. Everybody knows who he is. What are some of the characteristics he has that makes him such a champion? Well, one of them is that he will not be denied. This guy has determination up the buns. I mean, literally, if he's got a lead, you will not catch him. If he's within 5 strokes of you, he's coming to get you. He believes he should win every single tournament. And almost everyone else on that tour believes the same thing, that he should win every tournament and that not them. If they believe if they win, they're lucky. Oh, my God, we beat Tiger. Oh, my God, he must have had a bad day. They think he should be winning every tournament but he believes it, right? And so what are the beliefs? What are the characters that you believe that rich people in your arena would share, okay, that have in common? And I want you to write down 3 characteristics. And here's what I want you to do. Up until the big seminar, each week, every single day, I only want you to work on one of these characteristics, 1 per week until we get to the big seminar. Just one of them. Okay, let's say, for example, it's being reliable. Okay, reliable. Well, what does that entail? It means that you do what you say you're going to do. You're on time. You're punctual. When you say something, your word is gold here. Okay, and you say, well, why is that such a major success trait? Well, let me ask you a question. Do you want to deal with people in business who are unreliable? Would you deal with a person who didn't deliver what they said they were going to deliver, who didn't do what they said they were going to do? You know my favorite people? My favorite people are people who just do what they say they're going to do. And if they can't do it, they tell you right away, and they don't BS you. They don't waste your time. They go right up front. They say, I'm not going to be able to deliver on that, so let's not even go there, instead of just BSing. If you've got to do what you say you're going to do. And so one of the things we teach at our trainings in Light and Warrior Camp, for example, is be impeccable with your word. Your word is your life. Your word represents you. If you say, I will be there at 9:15, you be there at 9:15. You don't be there at 9:16 or 9:18 or 9:20, because if you are, you didn't keep your word, which means you lied. You lied to someone else. You lied to yourself. And no wonder you don't feel great about yourself. You can't even trust yourself. Why? Because you know that your word is worth crappo, okay? And so I don't want to get on to anybody here. You know me, Armin. I'm a very in-your-face trainer, and I'll really lace into the people who have mindsets that don't support them. But if you think you can get away with the simplest thing about being, I'm always a little late, but that's okay. Hey, what's the big deal? Hey, what's the big deal is that nobody trusts you, and nobody will do business with you. And if they do, they're stupid. Okay? That's the big deal. I hope everybody got that.
I think if they didn't, they should. Well, Harv, let's talk about one more thing before we wrap up this evening, because, I know there's some people on this call and they're listening and they're saying, that's great, and, what Harv's talking about, that's going to work for some people, and that's going to work for him, and that may work for Armand, but, I've got this going, and I've got this going, and I got that going. Essentially what they're doing is they're coming up with all kinds of excuses, and I know 100% that you are not a firm believer in excuses at all. So let's just talk about that and about some of these excuses that people are making, and maybe how, in my opinion, certainly, and I'm sure yours as well, how ridiculous these excuses are.
Well, I think that's a great point, because, again, we teach an Enlightened Warrior training. It's a 5-day, basically, adventure camp where we work on the things I'm talking about right now, but you experience them. Experience is a much better teacher than a bunch of yakking and a bunch of words. And so when you get into a situation where, an event, for example, or a process where, who you are shines out very quickly, what we call that the voice in your head. what you're talking, your excuses or your story, basically. So your mind is a survival mechanism. Let's put it this way. I'm going to talk about this at the course a lot, at the big seminar. So your mind is nothing more than a survival mechanism. Its job isn't to make you happy. Its job isn't to make you successful. Its job is to help you live. Okay, and the reason it stores everything is to help you survive. So it has this information so that, God forbid, anything comes as a threat to you, that it can handle it. So the other reason that we want to stay with what's familiar, because the mind believes it can survive better with what it already knows. But there's a saying that says that that the devil you know is better than the devil you don't, meaning that even though things are bad, you'd rather stay unconsciously with what's been happening, what you've got going, than try something brand new. And so what the mind does is it makes up its own perceptions. It makes up stories that will validate its way of being. Now, your mind is nothing more, as I said, than kind of like a big old file box, okay? It's a storage of information, and it files everything based on meanings that you give it and based on subject matters. So literally, all you can do is what's in the file box, because that's what you think, right? So your choices only can come from the file box you've got. And the problem is that people based in fear, which is, again, since it's a survival mechanism, its job is protection, and so because it's protection, it's based in fear. And so literally, excuses are nothing more than fear, okay? And your mind, everyone needs to understand this right now. This is going to be a little higher echelon than what most people are normally used to. Listen closely. Your mind makes up stories. Your mind makes up perceptions, let's call them, conclusions, ways of being, ways of thinking that says, this is what is. And it perceives it based on past information that mixes with it. And so your mind is going to make up a story about something. And so let's say you, in this example where you're saying, well, it's good for Armin, it's good for her, but, that doesn't work for me necessarily, okay? I can't because, okay, here's one of the things. Let's say I said to everybody, I challenge you on the line right now, and I said, give me the reason, the number one reason that you couldn't make $1 million this year. Now, some people who say, well, there's no reason, I definitely could make $1 million. But most people are going to say, in how long? And I'm going to say a year. Okay, I'm going to change it. I'm going to change it to 3 months. You're going to make $1 million from now until 90 days. It's a 90-day challenge. Give me the reason. What does your mind say as to why you can't do that? Well, now we're going to come up with the reasons. So what we call this mind frick. And what that means is, and different than what most people think, is that it means mind friction. Your mind is going to give you friction about why you can't take the actions and accomplish what you said you're going to do. Why does it do that, Armin? It does it for familiarity. It does it for survival. It does not want to change. So it will give you the reasons why things should stay the same. And so your mind is going to make up a story, okay? And the problem isn't the story, because guess what? Your mind's always going to make up a story. It doesn't mean it's a true story or a false story. It's still a story. But, your mind's going to make that story up, and here's the issue. Not that your mind made up a story, is that you bought it. You believe your own story. And so one of the things that people say about Harv Eker is that he will not buy your story. So your excuse is your excuse. Now, here's what you have to understand. Is in life, you either have, write this down, please, reasons or results. Reasons or results. Either you have a reason as to why it can't work for you, or why it won't work for you, or why it didn't work for you, or why you weren't there on time, or you have the result, meaning you got the job done. But it's just one of the two. It's to me, it's black and white. There's no gray here. If you got the result, Armin, you wouldn't need a reason, would you? And every single reason you have is a slit in your throat, in your financial throat. You are slitting. Every reason you've got is only in your head. Because how do you know that? Well, talk to your partner next to you, the person sitting beside you, and ask them their reason. And they have the same challenge, but they have a different reason. Everybody's got a reason. But yet, guess what? Your reasons don't help you. They don't support you. They're just the mind's way of pulling you out of something new. And so the problem, again, isn't the reason. The problem is you bought it. You believe it. So someone says, I had a woman yesterday who was talking to me. She says, Harv, I would love to come to your courses, but I can't. I go, well, why not? She says, I've got 3 kids, and I'm a single mom, and, I've got to take care of them. I go, that's why you're broke. She goes, what? I said, that's why you're broke. Because if you can't even figure out how to handle your kids and leverage your time a little bit so that you can come to a seminar, how on earth could you start your own business in order to do this? You've bought the excuse, I've got 3 kids. What is that, a society excuse? What is that? And you bought it? What would happen if we made up a new story and you say, I've got 3 wonderful kids, and that's why I want to make sure that I take care of them properly. I want to show them and model for them a successful way that you can have 3 wonderful kids, they can be taken care of properly, and you can get rich too. That there's nothing that's going to stop them because there's nothing that's going to stop their mom. Well, this girl just burst into tears, realizing what she's been teaching and modeling for her kids, a loser's attitude, a story attitude. She bought the story that the 3 kids have got to stop her. I just changed her story and gave her a reason for a new story. Well, I can tell you what, I got an email from her today, and she is on fire, but not just a motivation fire. Literally, she's told me exactly how I said, I don't want to hear about, your feeble excuses. I want to hear exactly how you're coming to that course and what you're doing. And so, guess what she did? She is getting her former husband, who divorced her, her former husband's mom, her former mother-in-law, to take care of the kids. Now you think, well, what's the big deal? She hasn't spoken to this woman or her husband in 6 years. They've been on terrible terms, and yet she came out of her ego. She did the warrior attitude, whatever it takes. She made the call. She asked for forgiveness, and she said she's starting her life new. She needs a little support, and if that woman would possibly be able to handle the kids for the weekend. And the woman was so taken aback by her courage and her willingness to start anew that she said, absolutely, I'll do that for you. And that's what's got to happen with everybody on this call. You cannot buy your story. You can listen to it. You can be entertained by it. But whatever you say, go ahead. At Warrior Camp, we actually give people the top 30 things their mind's going to say when we put them into these challenges. And they hear we turn up the chatter of their mind. So, I want you to come up with this story so you see how feeble they are. So you can see not that it matters, because literally your beliefs or story can't be right or wrong or true or false. Okay, but it can empower you or disempower you. It can support you or not support you. The idea that I can't do it because I have 3 kids is not true or false. It's just non-supportive to the result of getting to the seminar. The idea of I can't get into my own internet business full time right now because I've got to pay the bills and the mortgage is due, and my wife would just kill me if I just went for it. It's not true or false or right or wrong. It's just not supportive to becoming an internet millionaire. Okay, so I'm going to challenge you. What I teach people is, we ingrain the fact into you is that literally don't listen to your mind. Don't buy the story. Just listen to it and say, you know what, that's not a story that supports me, and I'm going to make a new story up. Now, you say, well, hold on. You can't just make a story up here. Of course you can. You made up the first one. You can make up a new one. You're going to make up a story anyways. You might as well make one up that supports you and gets you rich.
That's so true. So, Harv, I know we're just about out of time. Thank you very much for being on the call with us. Just this little bit of information that you've talked about over the course of the last 60 minutes certainly has made an impact on myself, and I know it's made an impact on everybody else, and I look forward to seeing you again in just 2.5 weeks at the next big seminar on April 7th, 8th, and 9th. So, again, thank you for being on the call with us.
Hey, thank you so much. I can't wait to be there. Listen, if anybody doesn't like my style, listen, don't shoot the messenger. I've got a message here. Take anything that I can give you, and anything I can give you that you can use it. Anything that doesn't work for you, just throw it away. But let me say this right now. You don't want a yes man as your coach. You don't want someone who's, oh, yeah, you're fine, that's great, whatever you're doing is great. If you are really rich and happy right now, then you're doing what you need to do. But if you are not reaching your full potential, you need to be able to take some other ways into account here, and not take your story so seriously. I'm really anxious to get to your crowd there, because when I was there last year, there was really, really wonderful people, very, very into learning. And by the way, I'll say this right now, everybody listen right now. If there's any reason you have for not showing up, drop it. because that same reason is what takes you out of everything in your life. And that's something I'll talk about then. One of the things we teach in our programs, Armin, is how you do anything is how you do everything. And the same reason you would have for not showing up to this event is the same reason you have for not showing up in your life, not showing up in your money, not showing up in every other arena. You've got a good reason for it. Oh, I'm too busy. Well, there you go. You're too busy to be happy and rich then, okay? Or I can't do it because, whatever you said after, because whatever stops you here is what stops you everywhere, and I'll prove that to you at the event.
Sounds great. So, again, thank you for being with us. And folks,
thanks so much.
I am going to do this is that, Harv has talked about many things, and I think he just talked about one of the biggest things, and that is your reason for not being there. Again, I couldn't say it any better than Harv, but I'll tell you this, is that the next event on April 7th, 8th, and 9th, I'm going to give you some facts. These are undeniable facts. We sold out hotel number 1. We sold out hotel number 2. We are working and selling hotel number 3. There's literally only a few rooms left in hotel number 3. And again, we sold out the hotel that we're at, the Sheraton. We had a hotel across the street. I think there's actually today there is no rooms left over there. We had hotel number 3, which is just a couple blocks down the street. We have that available, and we have some other backup hotels that are a few miles away. So again, you need to make a decision. It all comes down to one thing, and I always say this all the time, and that's one thing and one thing only, and that is decision. Are you where you want to be right now? If you are not where you want to be right now, then you need to make a decision what you are going to do about it. Before today, you didn't know about it, so therefore you could be forgiven. But now that you know about it, and now that you need to make the decision, what are you going to do?
Well, Armin, I have to jump in here because you know what that's like? To me, it's like, because we both run amazing courses, and when you have a superstar lineup like you have here, it would be like a person who wants to learn how to be a better golfer, and they can go for a 2-day clinic with Phil Mickelson, Tiger Woods, Vijay Singh, and 5 other of the top golfers in the world, each of whom will teach them a specialty, the short game, the long game, the putting of this. Now, if you could go to that, if you could ever attend something like that, would you go? Well, you'd go for any money that you had. Of course you'd go. And here we are offering people, you're offering people this star-studded event that does exactly the same thing. And people are questioning, should I go? Oh, come on here, okay? Where are you going to find all these people in one place that are rich and successful people teach you how they get rich and successful and how you can do the same thing?
And it's absolutely true. I mean, when you think about what each one of these people charge on an individual basis.
Oh, my God. It would be one of our courses.
It'd be absolutely staggering as to the number. In fact, I can tell you this. Many of these people, you can't, one-on-one you couldn't afford to have them for 3 days, much less to have all of them there, throughout most of the event and actually teaching you what they need to know in this particular setting. It's just amazing.
The other thing, too, Armin, I hate to toot your horn, but I'm in the same business, so I know the elements of it. It's not just the people on stage. It's the other contacts you make in the audience.
Absolutely.
The other participants. At our courses, I'm sure it's the same with you, people make friends and business associates that lead them to wealth, that give them opportunities. What do you think, sitting in front of your computer at home is going to change much? I can tell you what, it's not. You need to get out there, learn some new things, and meet some new people and get into some new relationships, and you watch what happens.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the highlights of the big seminar that we promote each and every year, and each and every time that we hold it, is the valuable networking that we have available. In fact, we've designed our seminar around the networking concept, so you can get to meet people. That's why I do things that many people tell me I shouldn't do, but I continue to do them anyway, such as I provide the meals, the lunches each and every night. I have the big dinner on Saturday evening. And the reason why I do all these different things is not because I want to spend money and feed you guys. That has absolutely nothing to do with it. I want you to network with other people, because a true gold mine is the people sitting next to you and around you. And if I can get you where you can introduce yourself and you can talk to one another and you can create those joint ventures, those relationships that not only last throughout the course of the event but literally last a lifetime. Many people, I was talking to someone recently, and they had met someone at my seminar about 2 years ago, and that person turned out to be his best man at his wedding. And their whole relationship grew. They have several businesses together now. It's pretty amazing what they had, but they met at an event. What event? specifically the big seminar. They keep coming back each and every time. We have people coming back all the time. We have a huge crowd coming back this time. Actually, a little bit over 30% of the people coming to our event this year are actually return attendees. Why? Because it works. They continue to get more information, the most up-to-date information in the world about internet marketing. And we are going to show you more techniques, more information. We're going to show you what works today, not what worked last year, because what worked last year on the internet doesn't matter, because that was last year. The internet changes so fast, you need the information immediately. You can't buy it in a book. You can't buy it in a course. You have to see it live and in person, because this information is that valuable and it changes so fast. So here's what you need to do. In the email that you received to register for this call, go to the website, scroll to the bottom of the page, click the order button. Again, let me give you a technique that I've taught a few people, and it's pretty simple. If you want to save $500 off your seminar ticket registration, it's very simple. All you have to do is this. Simply go there, contact a friend of yours, bring that person too, and now both of you get a reduced ticket price, and you basically essentially paying, instead of paying $19.97, you pay only $14.97 a piece. It saves you both about $500 by using that one technique. It's so simple, but that's how the system's set up. That's how it works, and you can take advantage of that. You can register your hotel room right now. After this call, I suggest you do it immediately to make sure you get your hotel room taken care of. In 2.5 weeks, we're going to be starting the big seminar. Harv Eker is going to be there. Many other people, Yannick Silver, Declan Dunn, Alex Mondosian, Stephen Pearson, the list goes on and on. All these people have been brought together for one reason, and that is to teach you and to bring you to the next level throughout the end of that course, that 3 days. So you need to be there. You absolutely must be there if you are serious about taking your business. I don't want to hear about why you haven't had the opportunity in the past, because this is your opportunity right now. So go ahead, go to the website, register your seat right now, and then I'll see you in 2.5 weeks at the big summer. So again, thank you, Harv, for being on the call with us. And everybody, thank you for being on the call with us as well. Hope you've learned a lot of information. Harv explained a ton of information on tonight's call. I have a stack of notes. You need to start implementing these things. You need to be at the big seminar. And I'll see everyone in just a few days on our next call. Thanks, everyone, and have a great night. Bye-bye.